Hi, my name is Dwayne Gathers, and welcome to Civitas LA, where we feature diverse and emerging leaders who make up this dynamic region and are creating community every day and building a better tomorrow. Each week, we hear from, learn from, and are inspired by a new generation of civic entrepreneurs who are forging a path forward and making our region a stronger, more resilient, and connected group of citizens. Now more than ever, we aim to elevate civic discourse, foster community connections, and promote civic knowledge and engagement across the greater Los Angeles region while elevating diverse and emerging voices in the civic conversation. Long known as America's oldest Black-owned nightclub, Jules Catch One opened in 1973 and at the time was considered a radical oasis where queer people of all colors could come and be liberated. At that time, gay Black women didn't own nightclubs, especially nightclubs that catered to gay Black people. Over time, the bar itself took on immense fame and fortune with visits from celebrities including Sandra Bernhard, Sharon Stone, Thelma Houston, Evelyn Champagne King, amongst others. As Civitas LA celebrates Pride Month 2021, we are absolutely delighted to be joined by ThaisWilliams, a legendary pioneer who holds the record for the longest-running Black lesbian-owned event space in the country, as we discuss the role that her iconic nightclub, Jules Catch One, played in providing a strong sense of community in Los Angeles over a span of decades and its impacts on the history of gay and Black gay life in our region. Jewel, thank you for calling in today and welcome to Civitas LA.
Thank you for the invite, Dwayne. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, we are grateful to have you here, and on behalf of Civitas LA, a belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I've had a lot of them.
So Jewel, give our audience a brief introduction to Jewel ThaisWilliams, please.
Okay. Like you said, I just had a birthday, and it was my 82nd.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. I was born in Gary, Indiana. My parents had migrated from Arkansas with my 4 older siblings. And shortly after that, we moved to San Diego, which is what I consider my hometown. I know very, very little about Gary. So I was number 5 of 7 children. So I graduated from San Diego High in 1957. I attended UCLA. I was accepted there 1957 and dropped out the following year because of finances and some partying too. I have to add that in. My family was very religious, so there was no card playing, no dancing, no swearing, and none of that.
Wow.
But as we left San Diego, graduated from high school one by one, we moved into a house that my oldest brother had rented after he had graduated from pharmacy school in Berkeley. And so we partied a lot and we cursed a lot.
Was that still down in San Diego, or when did you migrate to Los Angeles?
This was in 1957. I came right out of high school to LA. And then after a year of being here, I went back to San Diego, where I stayed for a couple of years and then ended up moving back to Los Angeles. And over the years, I did finish my studies at UCLA in 1971. It took me 14 years. So there was a few stops and a whole bunch of jobs and a lot of fun and some heartache in between those times. But my desire was to finish it. And so.
And you did. That's excellent.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
After lots of different jobs that ranged from house cleaning to being a deputy sheriff for 2 months. I ended up opening a dress shop with my younger sister in 1970. And so we managed the shop. We did some light manufacturing and we also had ready-made clothes. And then the recession came along.
Right.
And when there's a recession or women are out of their jobs or their husbands are out and they have to make do with less, at that time, I thought I needed a business that was more recession-proof.
So that's where our conversation actually begins, right there, that
Right.
recession-proof business, which became this behemoth. So we're going to pick up on that point, that very, very point that you just mentioned. That's wonderful. But before we get to that point, we're a podcast about Los Angeles, and we'd love to get an inside look at your Los Angeles through our lightning round questions. So these are just quick answers to some of your favorites about Los Angeles. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Favorite restaurant or two?
Cafe Gratitude.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And The Grain, which is these are both vegan restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Cafe Gratitude is right near me on Larchmont. Favorite watering hole?
I'm sober.
But if you weren't, it would be a catch.
Oh, I have no reason to go anyplace else.
Okay. Favorite place to take a visitor?
To the beach, probably.
Beach, okay.
Yeah,
That's
take
great.
that stroll down Sunset Boulevard and up north towards Malibu.
Give us a hidden gem. It's a place that no one else knows that you just think is just outstanding and fabulous and wonderful.
My home in the mountains.
Okay. Best hike or park?
The Kenneth Hahn Park.
Kenneth Hahn Park over in Baldwin Hills. Okay.
Yes.
Give us your favorite neighborhood.
Lamert Park.
And, I couldn't tee that up better because we just launched our first community spotlight series featuring Lamert Park. So thank you for giving a shout out to episode 34, Lamert Park. Thank you. So, Jewel, that was great. So let's begin our conversation. So I'm going to go back to where you actually were going with this conversation. And I know when we spoke, you mentioned that you didn't find Catch One, but Catch One found you, and that you were looking for a recession-proof business to get into. And I remember the quote because I wrote it down. You said, "A neighborhood bar wouldn't be bad," which I thought was wonderful. So share with our audience how you came to open and own Catch One and how it found you.
Well, I used to work right across the street at the supermarket. It was white owned, and this was back in the 60s, I guess. Yeah. And the owners, as well as the customers, didn't want Black people to frequent it. So I said to myself, one of these days, I'm going to own that place, and anybody will be able to come, with no idea in mind of what the clientele was. And in fact, I was closet then, so it had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the racist component of what was going on over there. So it was not really by chance that when the time came for me to move on from the dress shop, I searched every night in the LA Times under the business opportunities, restaurants, bars, etc. And this went on for maybe a month or so. And then one night when I was going through the ads, I saw this nightclub for sale, or this neighborhood bar for sale.
I love
Different
that.
than
I love that. Neighborhood bar. I love that.
Yeah. So I was thinking that maybe it was the club that was right across the street that I had this premonition about, or this revelation about, some 10 or 11 years prior to that. And so I rode past it, and it wasn't that one, and I went down the street to see the one that was in the paper. It was called the Diana's Club. I drove back by the Diana's Club only to find that there wasn't any for sale signs, any place that would clue me as to its availability. So when I got back to my dress shop, I was searching the ads again, and the address showed up for the Diana's Club. Needless to say, I didn't sleep or eat or do anything that night.
Okay.
I had asked somebody that was close by when I passed by there what time they opened, and they said something like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, I was there.
Okay.
And fortunately, I beat out one of the competitors that had a club called the Horizon that was predominantly, if not exclusively, male, black male, had come in after I had already signed my name to the dotted line and given her a check. And as I said in the documentary, that was good, that $1,000 check, but I didn't know where the other $17,000 was supposed to come from.
Okay. So, Jewel, you described Catch One as a space that was really available and welcoming to all. So, you're now the owner, you're the bartender. This space became associated with Black gay life in Los Angeles. So, give us a sense of what was going on in L.A. around the time, and what you think necessitated a space specifically aimed at Black gay folks.
Well, at that time in the 1970s, there was relatively nothing open for Black lesbians. And there were a few bars. And when we talk about bars, we're talking bars then for men. And one of them was, like I said, the fellow that came in to try to purchase the Diana's Club while I was there.
So, during that time as well, you noted that there was, consistent harassment by the police. And even at one point, there was a fire that nearly destroyed the place, and you believe it's arson. So, how did you persevere during that time, and how did you navigate, these issues with the police harassment?
Wow. that covered about 10 to 15 years right there. But no, the harassment went on until the AIDS epidemic. And the only good thing that I can say about the AIDS epidemic was it kept the police from running off up in my club as often as they did. And when they weren't coming in uniformed, then, there were people that we could suspect anyway as being undercover folks. And then there was harassment from the alcohol beverage control. They would come in the height of business and stop and go back behind the bar with their flashlights, looking for gnats and whatever.
Right.
It is mostly just harassment in general.
And how did you persevere?
Well, I guess from the roots, and my folks, and subsequently me and my brothers and sisters had that never quit attitude and let nobody take you down and let nothing take you down. So it was just with that grit that, like I said, I'd gotten from my folks and the ancestors, that you don't give up and you don't give in. And which was remarkable considering with our parents, there was abject obedience to, you got slapped for looking a certain way,
right,
or whatever, and to go from that kind of suppressing one's emotions and that to the drive. And I thought that all the racism, the pain, the suffering, I was a little bit overweight and brown skin, and the thing that I thought that would erase all of those kinds of hurts and problems was to make enough money.
Sure.
And so I knew that the only possible way I could do that would probably to be self-employed. So in the back of my mind, I didn't know what I was going to be doing, but I knew that I was going to be doing something. I felt like I was going to be doing something that would help sustain me.
Yeah.
And to lift me out of poverty. And,
Well, certainly one of the things that set Catch One apart back in the day was the focus on gender equality. And while a lot of gay spaces are predominantly men, Catch was unique in that it held boys' nights events and girls' nights events. So speak to the importance of this kind of representation and openness to all as a welcoming environment.
Well, it was very important, like I said, considering what the broader environment was, even in the gay community. Blacks were not welcomed to the clubs in West Hollywood, and were often asked for 3 pieces of IDs. And even if they showed that, they would find something else that they would ask for or demand so that they wouldn't come in. And when they did get in, then it would be about just not being treated fairly there either. And one of the largest ones, it was called Studio One. He did an article for the LA Times, and everybody knew that he didn't want any blacks. He was into blonde, blue eyes, and he didn't want any blacks and any women in there if he could help it. So
Wow.
he managed that. And West Hollywood was West Hollywood then. You know, it was predominantly, if not totally, Caucasian. And my feeling was that we should all be able to go wherever we want to go.
Sure.
As long as we can pay, and as long as we act civilly, and there's no reason why.
Yeah.
And so I was asked to join the ACLU when that was going on because they had just started a gay and lesbian chapter. Okay. I told them that we had some of those same issues, Black folk did, but we needed a Black gay and lesbian chapter too, and that's one that I chaired for a few years.
Well, certainly another way that Catch was inclusive and fostered diversity was, you know, I recall that, you know, all of your event flyers were written in both English and Spanish. So I'm curious to know, you know, what was the overlap between the Black and Latinx gay and queer communities at that time, and you know, how did you work to include the Latinx community in your club?
Okay, just to clarify, we did have some flyers that were in both languages. Okay. The club was predominantly Black, but like I said, nobody was turned away. Yeah. And it did a change to a metamorphosis over the years, and to the point that when Madonna was coming there frequently, and you know, white folks were coming in from San Francisco and everywhere in droves on a Saturday night hoping to get a glimpse of her. And what that resulted in for me was the Black folks were saying that like white folks were taking over their night. Okay. And so they started this campaign about, you know, make Saturday night Black again. And, okay. And they made T-shirts and the whole 9 yards. And so, you know, that made me feel, you know, gone to all of this. And then they're telling me that, you know, I'm turning my back on them and I'm engaging this. So I asked for a townhouse meeting and invited the opposition and anybody. It was open. Anybody could come and you know, voice your feelings and complaints to me. And if there's something that I can do to change that or want to do to change that, then we'll do that, you know. So as a result, none of the opposition came, and it turned out to be kind of like a testimonial situation for the work and all that we've done.
Well, certainly you've done a lot of amazing work over the years, and certainly during one of the most difficult times, as we touched on getting into the 80s, you know, with the onset of the AIDS epidemic. And, you know, you were really on the front lines of this crisis, providing care and comfort to those who had contracted the virus. In particular, I was interested to know that, the club provided free meals. The place really served as a safe, comfortable space for those who didn't have a place to go to. So, you know, how did the crisis impact you, and how did your club rise to, you know, the challenges of that day to be such a pillar of strength for the community?
Okay, for the record, too, we had been having happy hour, and every day we had food because there was a lot of kids in those days that were homeless simply because they were gay and they were put out. Yeah. So the feeding of our community started many years before the AIDS crisis. But during the AIDS crisis, I actually had opened up a Catch One Houston too, with the idea of opening 3 more in different cities in the Southwest, which was booming then. So I opened a club in Houston, and then I would come back at least 3 or 4 times a month. My sister was managing the club in LA for me, and I would fly in and out. Long story short, when I found out about the AIDS crisis, I was waiting for one of the queens that was a moderator of the drag show that we were having to come in one night. And I asked her friends, I said, where's April? And they said, well, she's in the hospital. She says pneumonia. And within a few days, maybe a week or two, it had a name, GERD, then. And it was like, oh boy. And they said it was sweeping the gay community across the country. So I said, I better get home. And I ended up closing the place in Houston and coming back and spending all my time at the catch here.
Well, certainly, over the years, the neighborhood bar, shall we call it, has stood so tall for community, and you've held a lot of fundraisers. You really opened the organization up to philanthropy in so many ways, supporting the Visual Arts Council, the Committee of Gay Black Men, and other organizations. So tell me about the spirit of partnership and collaboration, and the Catch as a community space.
Oh yes, we were in position. I once I was able to purchase the building, which went from the neighborhood bar to this big space with lots and lots of rooms and spaces. So I made that available for organizations like In the Meantime Men's Group, which still exists today. And they are every Tuesday they give out meals to not only the folks that come to their meetings. Well, now it's all stop and go. You can come by and pick up a meal on a Tuesday night, and they were my tenants for about 6 or 7 years before they moved to the space that they're in now. But in addition to them, we had, even back in the 70s, when shortly after I had opened, and we had space for Black and white men together for their meetings, and they had the Black men's rap group.
Okay.
And then later, after I became sober, then we started having various and sundry 12-step meetings there too, and then there was meetings for the trans males, just about any activity that was going on. Oh, and we had church there,
and church as well. So
yeah,
you were busy 7 days a week then there.
Yeah. Yeah, for a while, and then it started tapering out towards the end.
Okay.
But Unity Fellowship of Christ Church, which was the first Black and gay church in the country, or maybe even in the world.
Okay.
We used to have the services that was in one part of the catch that wasn't burned down when it arson. Okay. We would sit on bleachers and we would have our little church service, and through them, the Minority AIDS Project was founded.
Oh, right, yeah.
So we spent a lot of time, in addition to helping the church do what they do, and of course, what would be a better place to be able to advertise than the catch for all of those services. So.
Well, I don't know if I should ask this question, but I'm just wondering if you had a late night on the dance floor on Saturday night, what time did you have to clear out before church set up on Sunday?
I don't know that I cleared out. Because usually the services started at 11, and in those days it was like 5, 6 in the morning. So there was a little breathing time for that. And then that afternoon, or early evening, I think we opened the downstairs bar, which we called Jules Room, which they named Jules Room and when I was absent on a cruise one time. I came back and they went from the Diana's Club to Jules Room, but I was in favor of just leaving it since it was paid for.
Okay.
And Art Deco, neon Diana's Club. I thought that looked pretty good. But my sister and a couple of my friends didn't think so. So when I came back, it was changed.
Okay.
But in Jules' Room on Sunday afternoons, starting at I think about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We we had a talent show,
Okay.
and people like Dionne Warwick and Etta James and Chaka Khan,
Okay.
her sister
Yeah.
Paka Boone, those kind of folks would show up for
Love
the
Shaka
show.
Khan.
But the amazing thing was like Chaka Khan and her sister Paka Boone used to come when I first got the Diana Club, and I would be in the attending bar by myself, and to the jukebox. They would come in, the two of them, they lived not far away, and they would come in. They were kids then, like, I mean, 21, 20, whatever.
Okay.
And they would come in and dance to the jukebox, and it would just be me behind the bar, hoping somebody would come in, and them out on the dance floor.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I wouldn't do was, if no one came in, then I would still be there at night by myself because I couldn't afford any security or anything else. So
Okay. Gosh.
I'd be there because I wanted to keep the hours. I didn't want someone to come by, and I closed at 11, and the word they had this saying, and forgive me, but I have to say it like I heard it. If you wanted something to get out, you telephone, telegraph, but the best way would be to tell a sissy.
Okay.
So I didn't want the word to get out that I wasn't keeping my hours, and they came by and it was closed. And
So, Jewel, that's great. You've had many highs and any number of lows, but certainly you've persevered and had a lot of fun along the way. So how did LA celebrity culture find you, and how did you enjoy being a refuge for some high-profile celebrities who found their way to Jewel's Catch One?
Well, I was a bit shy, and I wasn't drinking as much, in my early years of the club as I did later. But there started to be a underground culture of folk that started. It started in Hollywood, and then it moved to this little black club that was down the street from me called the Horizon.
Okay.
And they had a promoter, and he was connected to a lot of celebrities, so he would bring them from the clubs that were. He would bring them from the clubs that were in Hollywood and West Hollywood after they closed to the little club down the street, the Horizon. And so when someone had told them that or they found out somehow that we were open till 5 or 6, and that it was a big place and yada yada. So so they started coming after hours at first, and then they found out we were open earlier, and then they started coming in. We had a few movies that were shot there.
So who are some of the notables that showed up, and were they good guests or were they naughty guests?
Well, I knew that I was always being watched in that, so they were always good guests.
And this is before TMZ, so probably the paparazzi weren't stalking them either. Probably.
I would not let anybody in the club with a camera, except our cameraman. So they felt not only safe there, but safe from being harassed by anybody, or pictures taken of them dancing or doing whatever.
So, again, this is probably pre TMZ and pre iPhones with cameras on it. But I'm wondering if there are any fun or naughty stories that you can share.
Yeah, there was a lot of fun stories, and the naughty ones I won't share.
Okay.
The fun ones were that I got a chance to see movies and TV shows that were shot there. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere
and Pretty Woman?
Pretty Woman.
Oh, really?
The opening scene where she came down those stairs and he was sitting at the bar.
Okay. But so in 2015, about 6 years ago, you decided to close Catch One. So what led to that decision?
Well, just like I started, business was down, and folks had other places to go and do. And we're talking 42 years that I was there, so a lot of them but want to go to new places. All of this understandable. So, and the biggest thing happened was that at least half, if not more, of my customers had succumbed from AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
So this left a big void, and the Black male community was wiped out. I mean, really wiped out. And it had slowed down, and I started to use outside promoters, and that didn't really work that well. And then I was 70 something years old, so that might have had something to do with me moving on.
And not only did you close the club, but you sold the property as well, correct?
I did.
Yeah,
yes.
You sold the property. So tell me, this is 2015. You opened in 1973. So how do you view Black gay life in Los Angeles now? And do you think there's still a need for spaces that cater specifically to Black and brown folks?
No, I don't. I think the shift to West Hollywood by the folks that are still going out and finding it a little bit better, not a whole lot. There's still, racism. I don't know about this year or whatever, but I know 2 or 3 years ago it was still racism and changing the music and doing other things rather than being overtly, being prejudiced.
So 6 years since closing the catch, and I know there was an amazing documentary that came out on Netflix
Yes.
that discussed your journey far better than we could in this episode. But we appreciate you being here and sharing your story with us. So how do you feel about your journey, the club's journey, now that you've had this great milestone birthday? You're 6 years away from since the closing of Catch.
Right. Well, I still had the clinic. I had it open for 20 years, like I said, off times on top of the time when I was when I had the catch. And at one time I had the catch, I had restaurant and the clinic. So it was kind of like a welcome miss for me, but it was still hard to let go. 42 years of your involvement, but times had changed, and people had changed. And it was time for me to go. And I had the clinic that I still, I was still able to serve and be of service at my acupuncture clinic for, like I said, 20 years, some of which were on top of other things that we were doing also. But it was kind of strange, to say the least. Plus, I had built an apartment in the building where my club was. So I lived there too. So it was like a whole new ballgame.
So to let all that go after 42 years. So you've referenced the clinic. So tell us more about the community health organization that you started and that you still oversee. Tell us more about that.
It was called the Village Health Foundation, and it was a nonprofit. And I used to tell people that asked me, how I did it and wanting to get into it and that, and, was it making a living? I said, no, actually, I pay to be here.
Okay.
But with my heart and soul, it was with gratitude that I was able to do it, number one, and continue serving in a way that would benefit the community at large. A lot of folks, Black folk, hadn't had acupuncture before.
Right.
And, we're the ones that have the most illness. We're the ones that are taken advantage of more so by the medical system and die younger, more obesity. And I wanted to help with all those things, just as I did with the AIDS issue. It's about trying to educate and in that way and serve.
No, that's wonderful. So, Jewel, this has been a great dialogue, and really appreciate you calling in today, and appreciate your service to community. It's been a huge honor and privilege for us to be with you today. But as we celebrate Pride Month, June 2021, the guest gets the last word. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience today?
Right. Just be proud and live your life to the fullest, and know that you are I feel, and this is from my heart, that we're chosen people and we're given gifts, and it's up to us to put those gifts to work. And as an elder in the community, I've had lots of experiences with pride situations. Have been honored a lot, and wow, we've made a lot of progress, and I'm glad that I had a chance to have some hands-on experiences with that progress, and I know that the best is still yet to come for us.
Well, we appreciate that, Jewel. Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you have done, all that you will continue to do, and we are grateful for you and your service. So thank you, and happy Pride 2021.
Thank you, Dwayne. Happy Pride to you and your audience.
Thank you. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we hope you'll join us in 2 weeks as we look forward to another great conversation. As we like to say on Civitas LA, until we meet again, stay strong and get involved. To learn more about Civitas LA and share feedback on this program, or if you have a recommendation about future programs, please visit our website at www.civitasla.com. And we invite you to connect with us on Facebook at Civitas LA, Instagram at Civitas_LA, and on Twitter at Civitas_LA.